Hello, Internet. Thank you once again for joining me to talk all things vertical drama. I have probably one of the hottest properties. I'm going to say that. Let's do the hype in vertical dramas at the moment, which is the actor Nick Skonberg, who you may recognise from your screens if you have the Candyjar app, because he's been one of their big hits recently. So I'm going to ask Nick to do little introduction of himself to you, the Internet.
Wonderful. Hey guys, I'm Nick Skonberg. You kind of summed it up pretty well. Started it. I guess if y'all are watching this, you've probably seen me from Candyjar, but yeah, I got another one coming out with them, so that'll be you'll get to see me again on there.
Okay, so first question is, where are you from? Where do you grow up? Are you a city boy? Are you a country boy?
Chattanooga, Tennessee. So it's not like a small town in Tennessee, but it's definitely smaller than New York. I live in New York now, so very very different. But yeah, so I kind of grew up a bit of a country boy, and then have like graduated into a city boy. But I think the country boy side is still very much in there. I feel like I escape back to Tennessee a lot, especially if I need to recharge, or like calm down, and go home see my dogs.
That makes sense because New
Yeah,
York's quite woo.
it's a lot. It's a lot. I love it, but it's yeah, I feel like I can like do it in like sprints and like bursts, and then it's just a little bit much. I'm like, I need to go like calm down and like chill out.
Okay, so I'm going to do slightly different first question.
Mhm.
Anyone who's watching this can see you have some very nice film posters behind you.
Yeah,
Um, has film always been part of your life? Like, can you
yeah,
remember early on being captivated and certain ones that I guess
very
got
much
your
so.
attention and grabbed you?
Yeah, my mom and my dad and my grandpa are all really big film buffs, and so I feel like my parents always did a really good job showing me like their favorites and a lot of classics that they felt like I needed to see, and then we were always kind of watching like the um award seasons, like contenders each year. So I was seeing some pretty intense stuff, pretty young. And then my grandpa, they just had like a huge wall of DVDs at their house, and I would go over and hang out at their house a lot, and then I'd just sort of pick a couple from there for however much time we had during each day, and we just sort of watch through. So it's always been a really important thing to me. I think obviously, that there's eras of what films and I guess what genres were important to me at the time, but whatever genre that was and whatever film that was, they all kind of led me to to an overall appreciation and sort of love for film and storytelling and that whole process. So yeah, my mom has like this very distinct story about when I was a kid, and she showed me Finding Nemo. I guess that was the first film I'd seen, and I just was the most silent she'd ever seen me. I was like maybe one or two, and I just like shut up the whole movie. I was just really focused on that. So I feel like maybe that was a good early indicator that I would end up in this business in some way.
I'm feeling for your mum. That's an exciting moment when you find they like this.
Yeah,
Quick,
literally.
more. This is great. Um, So obviously your family, I guess you've got an amazing pedigree of family of film buffs who are like, watch this, watch
Yeah,
this. Was anyone in the family a performer, or are you the first that has
first
stepped
one.
forward in front of the camera?
Yeah, my mom was a singer in high school and almost went into that in college, but then sort of steered away from that. So she introduced me to theater pretty young. We would watch all. I just like stuttered on like 10 different we's. We would watch all the different like musicals that would come into town. We'd even try to like Nashville or like Atlanta and see any of the traveling shows they had there. So she showed me a lot of that. But yeah, I'm kind of the first one. My dad always jokes. He's like, I don't know where this whole art side came out in you because it's just such a foreign trait in the family. But I think they influenced me in that way. I think a lot more than they give themselves credit for. So
Can you identify what it is that you love about telling the story rather than watching the story?
um, I love, and I think this is more of an overreaching goal and a goal that I hope to get to in my career. But it's just I think you have a complacency and where to direct people's attention. I think in terms of if film and stories and character are a magnification and like a direction to look, and like I want to show you this story. I want you to learn about this person in this area and this whatever. I think it's your job as the artist involved in that to kind of figure out, okay, where does that attention need to be paid, and like who needs to be looked at a little deeper, and just what is it something the audience needs to see. So I think that's really exciting to me, and I think it's a lot easier to empathize and learn from somebody in the form of a story than it is reading the news or traveling or anything like that. I think it takes a certain kind of person to um, be empathetic in those scenarios, but I think a film can be really sneaky and kind of Trojan horse you into really connecting with somebody that you wouldn't otherwise. And I think that's really exciting.
That's such a good answer. Such a good answer.
Thanks.
It's true. It's true. And when we come to your role, you managed to do that. You
Oh
Trojan
man.
horse me. Well done.
Thank you.
My next question is,
Yeah.
so what's the step from obviously you're enjoying doing bits to deciding to study, and kind
Mhm.
of what was it? I'm always fascinated, like, how do you decide where to study? Because obviously you're in somewhere like America, there's so many amazing
Right.
options. How on earth do you decide that's where I want to go to study and
Yeah.
learn grow?
It was I mean, so I was auditioning for drama school in COVID. So it was, and I was kind of the only person from my high school. I had a lot of friends in high school that did theater with me, but I was sort of the only one that wanted to go forward with that. So it was all Zoom audition. So it was just sort of me in the corner of my room, like doing self tapes with like a backdrop. I'd never filmed a self tape before. So I was kind of figuring out how to do that, which was kind of, it was a fun experience. It was a very sort of isolating experience, but, I I think COVID was a really great moment for me to kind of right before COVID, I decided I wanted to be an actor. That this is what I wanted to pursue. I think was less of like a me discovering that and me just sort of admitting that to myself. I think I'd always wanted to do that, but I just didn't know anybody that went into acting or went into the arts in general. So it just didn't really feel like something people did in a weird way. um, and I thought I was going to go into filmmaking just exclusively right before then, and I had an amazing summer in LA at USC studying that. And I walked away from that summer knowing that this was the world and the people that I wanted to be involved in. That question was answered. It's like I need to be around these people and this energy and this kind of creative flow and all that. But the filmmaking side at that point just didn't really seem like where my role was in that. And so when I was in COVID, I was like, okay, I want to be an actor. I don't really have any dogs in this hunt. I don't have any family in this. I don't know anybody doing this. So it's like, why do you want to do this, and how do you want to do this? And I think I knew I wanted to be in a city because I wanted to be able to start working, or at least learn from the road. Learn from doing independent work and student work, and be in a place where I could see a lot and study a lot in that way. So I ended up, I didn't get into a lot of the drama schools I wanted because I had really terrible auditions for the first couple ones until I worked with a coach. And then I realized, oh, I probably should have been doing these monologues this way the whole time. Ended up getting into NYU. And then it was that was just sort of sold it. And I think I really enjoyed that NYU wasn't a full, 12-hour a day, 6-day a week conservatory, because it allowed me so much room to just start working, like I said. And you know, I had really good relationships with the film students there, and I was just acting in their work that they would send us stuff, and also their stuff they would just, put up in class and just needed an actor to come in and read some lines. I'm like, yeah, sure. Um, and just watch a lot of theater and go to a lot of museums and stuff like that. So that city aspect, I think, was really, really enticing to me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
If you're doing it, immerse yourself somewhere that's like a center of culture
Completely.
and film, like New York.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Were there any okay, I'm going on a tangent here, but
Go on the tangent.
weird.
I'm with you.
Okay, obviously a lot of iconic locations in New York in a lot of
Right.
movies.
Yeah.
What was the one that you were like, I have to go there because of that movie? Was there one that was like, oh,
Oh man. There's so many, and I feel like I stumble on them. I feel like I haven't really like sought them out as much as I just sort of like found them. Like I was on like a walk one night and then like the Ghostbusters building just like appeared around the corner. I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, this is crazy. Or you'll like walk by something and it'll like look really familiar and you're like, I feel like that was like the Green Goblin's house and Spider-Man. And then you like look it up, it's like, oh no, that was. Um I don't know. I mean, there's so many New York movies I feel like I watch just kind of
Mm.
constantly. Like I feel, I'll watch On the Waterfront like once a year, and I feel like those locations will pop up, and you'll see all that. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's any that I like really sought out. I do think I've just sort of walked up. I probably passed many more that I just didn't know that was like the actual location.
That's pretty good. I mean, if you've wandered past the Ghostbusters house, that
It's super
that
cool. I
could
mean, they
be
have it like all renovated. There's like a fancy sign. Like it's really cool.
oh, that's awesome, right? We'll get some tourist money for you there. Just doing a bit of a free advert for that. Um, so what was the first paid acting job then? Do you remember what that was?
It was a short film called Recursion that I did. Um, it was like the fall of my freshman year of drama school, and I got it off of Backstage, and I had a great experience, and it was a lot of fun. And it was another young starting out filmmaker and crew, and it was kind of cool. This actually ties into the last question. We shot it in the building across the street from the bank from Dog Day Afternoon, which I didn't know when we were shooting it. And then later he's like, "Yeah, this is the same." I'm like, "I love that movie. That's awesome." So I walked in my apartment the other day, and my roommates were watching that movie, and I was like, I shot my first short film right over there when they like panned outside. Um, but yeah, it was a great film, really good experience. Um, I was like so intense about my process with it. I was like, this is my first job. I'm like, I'm in New York. I gotta like De Niro, Day Lewis this. And so my character's like trapped in a room, like a purgatory situation, and he's zip tied there. So I just stayed zip tied to the chair like all day, which at this point I probably wouldn't do, but at that point it just felt like what I needed to do. And they're like, you can come out for lunch if you need to. I'm like, no, I need to like stay in and I need to lock in. um, so yeah, that was my first experience, but it was a lot of fun, and that film's fun to look back on.
Just if people want to watch that, yeah, it's called Recursion.
Yeah,
Where can people see it? Is it available to view anywhere?
it's on YouTube. Yeah, it's a
YouTube.
good film. I got long hair in it, and that was a whole era. We cut the hair, but if we can look past the hair, then I think I do a pretty good job in it.
So you're happy for we will still send people there.
Yeah, okay, you can still send them there.
Okay. Awesome. Um, so what I wanted to ask you is graduating.
Yeah,
I kind of want to do like a context. Obviously, one of the
let's
things
do
that
it.
struck me, particularly about once I discovered verticals, was that everything in the UK that I was reading was,
Yeah.
Hollywood's dying, stuff doesn't get made, studios are
Mhm.
closed, there's not much TV being made, things aren't being
Yeah.
commissioned. It was all quite doom and gloom.
Mhm.
And then obviously verticals are now, that's why we kind of slightly seized on them of like, this is providing
Yeah,
people with work. So I was
completely.
kind of wondering, as someone who's recently graduated,
Mhm.
was there a degree of, this is a slightly precarious industry because it's precarious anyway, but this is
Right.
even more precarious industry to be
Yeah,
graduating, then going out in the world and trying to get paid work in.
completely. Yeah, it was. I mean, I think it's like we said. I think graduating with a trying to enter this industry in any capacity is a pretty jarring experience. No matter how much of a hotshot you feel you are, how confident you feel in what you do. I think it sort of it'll hit everybody in a certain way, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to not feel like it's a sure shot or feel like you can take your foot off the gas or anything like that. But it was I'd been fortunate that I'd gotten to work while I was in school, so I had stuff under my belt to kind of send to casting directors and agents and managers, being like, I can do things. It's I've done things. I'm not I've been on a set. I've had that experience. If you put me on there, I'm not gonna freak out and eat everything at the crafty table.
Yeah.
Um, so that I think gave me some confidence. I also knew just based on watching a lot of stuff going on that was coming out that there was a lot of roles I could go up for, or at least there was, I wasn't having to look for that kind of diamond in the rough part that was like so specific to me. I knew that I would be able to kind of start auditioning.
Mm.
Um, and I take a lot of time to study the industry and where it's moving and how it's moving. And I knew that I don't know. I feel like it's the kind of job or like industry where anxieties are always there, and they take different forms and different shapes, but it's not going anywhere, I don't think. It'll change and it'll evolve and new things will pop up and then new things will fall off, but I guess I just, it's film and TV and all that. It's an infant. Like it's such a young art form that it's and such an important one that it's not dying anytime soon. So I wasn't really worried anything about that. But yeah, I mean, especially being in New York, and I think if I'd moved straight to LA, I might have been a little more nervous had I not discovered verticals and been like, yeah, a lot of stuff isn't getting shot out there or whatever. But with self tapes, it's like you're kind of auditioning for things that are shooting around the world. So yeah, just try to keep my head about me and just kind of focus on the work. It's I guess my whole process is you do the work, the door is going to open at some point. So every day until that happens, try to get like 1% better so that if that happens a week from now, you're 7% better, but for that job. And if that happens a month from now, you're 30% better, So I think I just sort of graduated with that mindset and it's just like, let's just get back to work. Let's not take time off,
I love that. You see, you've
Yeah.
given people two things, both some excellent life advice, but also proof that you're very good at maths. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know about the math part.
It's
I
very
ended
good.
up in acting at some points for some reason. So I don't know if math is my strong suit.
So obviously, I am going to come to verticals because it's
Yeah.
called Vertical Drama Love. We have to go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Loving my brother's best friend on Candyjar,
Yeah.
vertical. First question is, did you know it was in vertical format when you saw the audition? Because I know people don't always realise
Yes,
it's
I
an
did.
audition.
I did. On Actors Access, it'll say on the side vertical short film. So I had it. It was one of the first ones I applied to because I kind of graduated and you're looking around and I think there's a part where you're like, I don't know what these vertical things are. I'm gonna stick around them. And I talked to a friend who'd moved out. She was in LA and then she moved to New York and I was asking, I was like, what are these things? What's your experience been with them? I feel they all kind of have like the role match. Like I feel like I could do some of these. She goes, I absolutely think you could do some, and they're really good experiences, and they're keeping people paid, and I've had good experiences on them, and they treat the actors really well. So I saw this one, and I looked up Candyjar, and their films seemed to be in good taste, which was a first thing for me. Of not, I mean, there's some of
We
these
all
that
know there's a wide range for this.
yeah. So and I was kind of like, I don't think I'm gonna do that, but they felt like in good taste, and they felt not dissimilar from films I'd grown up watching, and
Mm.
um, it seemed like a good budget and a legit company. So yeah, I auditioned for them and it was probably the worst self tape I've ever filmed in my life. I'm kind of shocked it's gotten this far. It was like it was 15 minutes before the deadline, and I was like, I need to do it. I just need to send it in. So my backdrop is like barely covering the back. I have like no reader. My phone's on like a table. I'm just like doing my lines out to the ether. I'm like, okay, it's out there. It's sent. It's like doing whatever. And then my callback actually wasn't too much better because it was in an airport. It was a call, but it was a chemistry read with Victoria who played Henley, and I was traveling back to New York that day. I'd been in Tennessee, and I had to go to like one of those little like sleep rooms at the airport and like film this because I'm like, I don't know if I want to be saying this out loud in the airport. There's like grandparents walking by. It's like the North Carolina airport. I feel like they might not like that. So, but it worked out, which is great.
What were the notes that you were given? Because I know often people are given when you start a story like this, kind of what are the references that you were given for a story of Henley and Luca?
It's a brooding playboy kind of, but sensitive side, soft side. I think there's pretty good context clues that, he really did care about her. So I think that was, I think in any audition room, you're not really given a lot of details. So I feel like I end up falling back a lot on just what is that specific character relation? I don't need to know this guy's overall arc or his overall purpose or anything. It's just like, what is my relationship to that person? And like leaning on that. So I felt like it was like, okay, he really cares about her and however that shows up. So, and that was big. I just knew it was the kind of guy who was like, a little more stern and a little, tougher. I was like, okay, I'll kind of play on that. But, they give really good character descriptions on Actors Access more than a lot of auditions I've gone out for. You really feel like you get a sense of this person, which is really appreciate it. I know some actors don't like to just like a couple specific details, and I think something like this where it was such a trying to gauge the tone of
Mm.
how these things go. It was really helpful to have all that kind of information. Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me asking, but I have to
No,
ask. Obviously,
ask away.
verticals. Obviously, one of the challenges is you have to hook your audience in immediately.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we don't have long setup. We go straight into emotion scene, something
Yeah.
happening, and I would say this is probably one of the most pow scenes
Yeah.
on Candyjar.
Yeah. It is.
Which also for you as an actor, and also for Henley, like
Yeah.
Victoria playing Henley, it's quite because obviously it's come home, and actually it's interesting because I have a teenage daughter, and she says, "Oh, I wonder who's had a glow up over the summer." So it
Yeah.
is a thing that they talk about, of like,
For sure.
so she's obviously come home, and it's the typical room thing, but obviously your character wanders in, and there's not a lot of clothes going on.
There's not. No.
That's quite intimidating.
Yeah. It was. It. You know, I knew what I was getting in for when I signed on. I
Mm,
knew that these things that you that the shirt or more
yeah.
was gonna have to come off at some point. Um, that was expected. So, but you know, we shot that later in the shoot, so I was really comfortable with everybody. And Victoria and I actually weren't in the same room when we shot that scene, which was kind of nice. And I was very comfortable with Victoria. I would have been fine with that, and she
Mm,
would have been. But it's also just sort of like, if you don't have to, then
mm,
why
yeah.
not? So we actually when they shot her perspective on me, she was
Mm,
Video Village and vice versa. But yeah, I mean, I felt comfortable with everybody, and I felt really comfortable with our intimacy coordinator as well, and she really helped me through that. And I think it might have intimidated me more if I knew how big this thing was gonna get. So
mm,
I'm kinda glad that I, didn't know that going in.
mm,
Um, but, yeah, and then, I think going into the second one, I think it's knowing how to handle a shirtless scene. It's it's a specific thing, and
mm,
it's such an actory Hollywood thing, but it's a timeless tale. So it's I think it's something I'm glad I'm learning stuff like that early, and how to handle those and how I need to handle those, and um what makes me comfortable, what doesn't make me comfortable,
mm.
stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I felt totally comfortable with everybody. So yeah, but it's an interesting first scene. It's
I mean, it works against the attention, but I was also the thing is, I think that's always key, maybe with
yeah,
these scripts, is does it make sense for the script, or is it just
yeah,
being put in? And yes, okay, it is a bit, but at the same time, it makes sense. This is the whole point. You have to jar them of like, okay, this relationship has changed now. This is
yeah.
not where they
This is
were.
not.
This is now
Yeah,
different. They're both very aware that it's different. And it all,
absolutely.
if you don't have that scene
Right.
or something pretty close to that, doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily the story accelerate to where it does.
Completely.
It's like,
Yeah, and I
very well.
think, having a scene like that, it'll sort of weed out in the audience who's like, "Okay, this is the rules of this story, and this is how this thing's gonna move." It's like, you in or you're not. So that's kinda nice. I think it's always kinda fun when a story does that. But, yeah, it's a I also agree, reading the script, and especially the intimacy and stuff like that and I think that's, goes back to what we said earlier, are things tasteful? Are things, um, embellished or exaggerating beyond the
Mm,
point of like setting a good example to an audience. I think that's really important when you
mm,
do intimacy work and anything revolving like the body and everything like that. So I didn't feel like it was too gratuitous beyond the parameters of the genre.
mm.
Um and if it had been, I would have said something. I would have advocated for myself. But yeah, I felt so comfortable with everybody. So I had a actually kind of a really fun experience on that day. Everybody's just so chill. It's like, all right, here we go. It's like, what's your costume? Oh, it's a towel. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
So one of the things that I think is really interesting watching this as a viewer, as sort of someone who watched a lot of verts, is that you've got a real mix of experience. Obviously, you've got yourself and
Yeah,
Victoria, who are fairly new. Then you've got Victoria's brother, who's played by Tate Doppler, who's
yeah,
he's done a lot. He's
absolutely.
experienced. And then you've got the really interesting character, I think, of Austin,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because it's quite cleverly set up because you're not quite clear. Okay, I'll come back to that bit. But again, played
yeah,
by Paul Addison, who has done a lot of verts. I mean,
absolutely,
Paul's
yeah,
been in some really early ones. So kind of what's
yeah,
that like on set? Just I guess almost just being able to pick people's brains of
yeah.
people with that different level of experience.
It was really helpful, I think is the baseline of it. I think it's, we all got really close on the set, which was so fun. I mean, it was such a fun group to hang out with. Everybody, it's really great people. Um, I think something I struggled a lot on the first day, just kind of figuring out the tone in the genre of this. It was because I hadn't really watched any. I didn't know anybody had done them, so I'm kind of like, it's like, what is the degree to like you lean into the genre, and what's the degree to which you take it, just like bare bones. What is this? Let's like, commit to imaginary circumstances or whatever. But um, so I had a really hard time that first day, and then I think at the end of that day, and then when I went home, I watched a lot of the ones that I thought were doing well, specifically from Candyjar that people seem to like, and kind of gaining that. And then the next day, I was talking to Paul, I was talking to Tate, just their experience in the scene, and how they've done them in the past, how they, what they brought from horizontal work they've done into this, and what they brought from these into work like that. Um, and they're such good guys and so smart about what they do and so professional about what they do. And I think they really took Victoria and I both under their wings a little bit in those scenes, and just, that whole crew. I mean, how to, I think when you act on camera, you sort of learn framing really well, and then learning vertical framing is such a specific thing too. So they really helped me with that. And yeah, they were great guys. And then Victoria was just the best. She was also from New York, so we were both kind of fish out of water out here doing our first one of these. We were in the same hotel too, so we'd like see each other in the morning. But she was great, and I think it was really nice that both of us were just kind of coming into this from just a general background of doing like theater in New York and doing short films and stuff like that. And so I think we just really took it in the same vein of all that, and not try to lean into too much to any romance tropes or anything like that.
Right.
So I had a lot of fun working with all four of them. They're great people.
So I need to ask you about things because I have a theory, okay, having rewatched
Okay.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Connor, okay?
Yeah.
Because Henley likes Luca until we have that conversation with Connor. And Connor's like, I don't like Luca. Luca's a big
Yeah.
problem. And he pretty much throws her in the path
Yeah.
of Austin, who we obviously eventually learn is problematic. What
Bad
did
guy.
Luca do to Connor? Like, what's going on there? Like, where's
I
that
don't
come
know.
from?
I don't know. I think he's a guy with a reputation. I think, as a good best friend, he's keeping her away from him, which is I can't blame him for it. um, but I'm so sad I didn't have too many scenes with Andrew, who played Connor. He was so fun. He was a great guy. Um, but yeah, I'm like, I would have, if my friend was interested in Luca, I would have kept her away too, probably. But I think Austin's more of a like wolf in sheep's clothing kind of guy. So, you know,
Yeah.
we find out he gets, his due his due
Yeah.
justice later.
Because I was just like, I'm sure, like, Luca accidentally stole his milk money or something. I was like,
Something
there's
like
something
that.
there. There's
Tripped
some
him in the
really
hall.
long, way back
Something.
in like primary or whatever it's called in
He's like a
America.
nefarious guy, just secretly.
Yeah, there's something going on there.
Yeah.
So obviously it's amazing. Obviously it's a relationship between Luca and Henley,
Yeah.
but actually there's some really interesting dynamic between Luca and then Henley's brother Will.
Yeah.
Like how fun, I guess, is that to play? Because it does kind of explode when it explodes, and
Yeah.
obviously not everyone's understanding what everyone's point of view is and why they've done things.
Yeah. I mean, Tate is such a fun guy. He makes the set really fun. So he and I got to be buddies pretty quickly. Actually, when I was out there shooting the last one, we hung out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's always so weird. I think as an actor, like realistically playing relationships with such a history and like such a short amount of time knowing a person. So like, you'll get thrown into like, oh, this guy's your best friend. You've known him for like 5 hours in real life, but like he's your bestie. Like, go do the thing.
Mm.
But I think we just got a really good rapport pretty quickly, and then ended up just sort of riffing on each other and playing off each other. And he was so fun. And I think that made our like argument scene honestly a lot of fun later, because it's like, of course he's gonna love throwing me out of a house and like pushing me. I'm like, that's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, he's a great guy, and that was a fun relation to play, because that's it's a dicey dicey scenario to be in, of I love you as my friend, but also I got feelings for your sister, and like I know there's boundaries, but like how are we gonna play with this? So yeah, that was a lot of fun to play with him.
And obviously, I mean, I'm going to come back to your performance, but I think one of the reasons it's done so well is the character is written so well, and for kind of
Right.
with that kind of Mel Gibson, what girls and what women want of like looking
Right.
in a relationship. There's an understanding there. So one
Yeah.
of the biggest things is the fact that Henley realizes that Austen's always just totally dismissed and has no interest in her writing,
Yeah.
and that's actually, I would argue, the most. I always do in my reviews, like the most swoon by the moment is actually the
Uh,
fact that Luke is like, no, I'm going to sit and pay attention to you.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's all it is, which would seem quite small, but actually I
Yeah.
think is very swoon worthy of like, oh my goodness, someone's actually wants to listen and is
Taking
taking
the
an interest in
time.
something that
Yeah.
matters to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of no, I think that is so interesting. I think just breaking down what it is that makes him the one she's with in the end versus, what is the thing that makes somebody who on the surface is a lot more appealing. What is that hiding? So
Mm.
yeah, that was so interesting. I think he is such a sweet guy, under a lot of masks. And I think that was, I think those are the characters that are the most fun as an actor. Um, but yeah, it is learning that gaze and like what is it that makes this character somebody that you want to swoon over, as you said, and, and
Mm.
and sort of fall behind. I think there is sort of a duty as an actor to just really, and one of these things, just knowing what that is and what you're standing for. And I guess for me, and I've only done two, but I guess I am now very specific about if I play one of these guys, it's going to have that kind of response from an audience. I want to make sure it's setting a good example of one of these guys. I don't want to do one of these scenes where I feel uncomfortable with how the character does the intimacy or like some of the power level differences or whatever. I think just me as
Mm.
the person approaching these, I don't really want to support stuff like that. So I think I've been specific to choose these two I've done that they're good guys and they're promoting healthy
Mm.
masculinity standards and not enforcing anything that makes me uncomfortable as the guy doing
Mm.
them. Yeah.
Because I mean, I think I can tell that, yeah, you've done that. And and just to say, actually, just that you are even thinking about that.
Mm,
I don't think that's a responsibility you have to take on as an actor, but the
mm.
fact that you have is really admirable.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
just, yeah.
Thanks.
I just think that's he's saying. It's like that's incredibly, yeah, just bravo, basically.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, the other thing I was going to say as well, which again it is a slightly swim-worthy trope, but I
Yeah.
came from watching Chinese and Korean dramas, and it's something that
Okay.
comes up in their story because it's much more noble suffering. We like a good noble suffer
Yeah.
of him, often the male character, but it can be the
Yeah.
female as well. And it's this kind of,
Okay.
I'm going to drag you down. I'm not good enough. I've
Right.
got baggage.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting seeing. I mean, and to be honest, that's probably been the main thing I've had in my relationship with my husband of just
Mm.
like, for a long time, it was, I'm not good enough for you.
Yeah.
That was just the thing I had to overcome.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've gone personal there. Um,
You're good.
I
You're
just
good.
like, but that was
We're
really
both doing
interesting
it.
that they brought that in for Luca. And again, I think
Mm.
is another appeal of the character that
Yeah.
he's got that self-awareness of just like, I know that these are some weaknesses that I have that I'm working on,
Yeah.
and I'm worried that this might not be the right thing for you.
Yeah. And I think that is I don't know. I feel like I've explored characters that have kind of had that trait in various things I've done, and I think that's it's again another sort of timeless tale. I think that's a trait and a fear of people. I think even in the best people that doesn't really go away, no matter age or class or status or whatever. So I think I'm really interested in exploring that in a way that isn't. I don't think Luca or any of these guys is like necessarily noble for feeling that or for whatever. But I think it's that inherent kind of defense mechanism. I think is really interesting in people, and I think it really makes a distinction in a character between how they're seen versus how they see themselves. And I think those are really fun characters to explore, and kind of build and in that way. And I think he was a lot of fun in that way. And I think again, it's just sort of a thing of like he's got his jades, as we all do, but, he's a good guy, and I felt comfortable stepping into that shoes and in something that has so much intimacy and so much whatever, um, playing him in that and bringing him into that and not, feeling like I'm some bad guy that's gonna treat you awfully, but then, the audience is gonna love me kinda thing. I'm like, I
Mm,
just not interested in doing that really.
mm.
Yeah.
So, how long was the shoot for this? Was it about 5 days?
5 days. Yeah.
5
It was quick. It was fast.
Okay, and so when did you film it?
We shot this in, June in
Okay.
LA. Yeah.
So you finish your shoot, go back to
Uh,
your life in New York,
yeah.
then it comes out.
Yes.
There obviously there's always excitement on Candyjar when there's a new advert, so,
Yeah.
the Candyjar fans will go and watch them. I watched it and was like,
Uh-huh.
it was great. But then I think I had what's obviously happened with quite a lot of people if they've watched it and gone, "You you were like a star."
Oh,
And it's
thank you.
just it's that je ne sais quoi of just like, you like this. I then spent probably 2 hours when I should have been working, Googling
Oh,
other
wow.
actors, trying to work out, like, what is this reminding me of? Like, where's it
Yeah.
coming from? Where's the energy? Where's the look? And I was going
Uh-huh.
through, that kind of.
Yeah.
I mean this is a compliment, but a lot of British actors, because I was
Okay.
like, it's that kind of edgy, slightly
Yeah.
urban thing. Um, Obviously, I did that and wrote review, and then obviously it's gathered pace. I'm not the only person who's had this
Right.
response.
Yeah.
When does it then hit you? When do you like go, hang on a minute, what's going on here?
It
What's
was,
that like from your point of view?
yeah. I had I remember I'd just gotten back to New York the day the day before it dropped. So I was in the city, I'd kinda been home. It was, around just I was home for a little bit, had a good rest time, and I got back. It came out, trailer came out, was getting some views. I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna," and I'd just gotten the full footage, so I was like, "I wanna sit down, I wanna watch this." And it was a weird feeling watching, it was just such a new thing, and, that it's obviously such a there's so much intimacy and stuff like that, it's sort of weird seeing yourself and all that. I was kinda like, "Oh, I don't oh, man, a lot of people are gonna see this, like, how do I feel about this?" And then I sorta kept my phone at bay for a while, and then, honestly, I remember your review was one of the first ones I read, and it really I was like, "Okay, I think this is something I can be proud of, and this is something I'm comfortable with a lot of people watching, a lot of people seeing." I'm like, I think it's getting the response that you'd want as an actor, where it's like, that there's the one crowd of, they think you're, attractive and cute and whatever, and then there's, the other crowd that's like, "Oh, this guy's a good actor, and I'd like to see him other things," and I enjoyed how he told this story, and I think that sort of snowball affected, and that sort of became a general response, and that, it ended up being something I was really proud of, and I was really happy that I was able to, move some people um, show somebody a different side of, I guess, what not to put myself on any sort of pedestal, but maybe, take, vertical and sort of treat it with a different energy than maybe some other ones had
Mm,
or not. I think that felt good to me, and then, yeah, I mean, people have been really kind and saying some really nice things to me and to the whole cast, and I think people really enjoyed the film at large, and so but it was weird. I mean, it is the sort of thing I think it's taught me so much of, like, how I need to handle the internet and stuff like that going forward of, like,
mm,
maybe the first couple days something comes out, you're checking all the comments and you're checking the fan videos on TikTok and stuff like that, and then, maybe you're like, "Okay, I got the response I needed to feel like I did my thing," and then I'll sort of put it away. You can get sort
mm,
of obsessive checking those things. I think what ends up happening is, it's if 98% of the comments are, really good and really what you want, the 2% of them that maybe aren't exactly what you want, that's kind of what your brain's gonna sort of cycle over the most. So I'm like, I think it's taught me so much about, like, just how I need to handle that for my own
mm.
mental health and everything. But, all that aside, it's been such a good response, and people have been so nice, and that's, it's the most widespread anything I've done has gone, and so I think just to know that people feel good about me and are excited for me and enjoy what I do, just, that means a lot. Yeah.
if you don't mind just asking a little bit more about
Yeah.
social media, because obviously, presumably it's not something that when you're in acting class, whatever, anyone
Yeah.
gives you any training on. Oh, by the
Right.
way, you might blow up on social media for whatever
Completely.
reason, and this
Completely.
is how you handle it, and here's how to put boundaries in place.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Yeah. How do you do that? Is it just trying to figure it out quickly on your own? Are there like friends around you that you can
Yeah.
talk to and just go like, how do I make this healthy? Yeah.
I feel like the story of this vertical is in two parts. It's like before the Twitter blow up and then post the Twitter blow up, because it was two different kind of ball fields. Both have been, overall really great, but I think it was, I don't really engage in social media a lot. I never really have. I think it's just not something, a world I'm super comfortable in, that I know a lot, that I ever really have, I guess, taken the time to really know a lot too.
Mm.
So I mean, I didn't even usually keep Instagram on my phone. I had like when this came out, I'd start getting like burner accounts on different social medias, just so I could kind of check in and see what people were saying. Um, but you're right. I mean, it is such a different ballpark of everything. You just kind of taught how to do a good job, and then I think everything else, I think. But honestly, I spent a lot of time studying the business side of the actors that I really admire, and how they've handled their careers, and also how they handle their online presence. And I think that's helped me a lot too, of how much is too much, how much is too little, what is extreme branding, and also what's branding that feels like you're not putting on a costume. I think that's, and I've talked to a couple PR people recently, and, my managers have been really great too. And a lot of my friends that know the social media world a little bit more. And also, I've talked with Candyjar and their team. They've all been really helpful to me about, we really know how social media works. We know how these things do. If you ever want help or advice or anything, just let us know. And they've been great peers to me, and they've helped me so much. But it's so much learning. I think it's stuff that I'll keep learning throughout my career. But yeah, that's such a it's a long conversation. Overall, it's been positive, and I think I've had to learn how to handle any negative things pretty quickly and any
Mm.
positive things pretty quickly, and also just, my dad said a really great thing when the Twitter thing was blowing up, and he was like, the last thing you want to do right now is stop doing the things that got you here.
Mhm.
And it's like checking on, I think when the Twitter thing happened, it was like I was spending kind of, the first day I was like, oh, this is really exciting. I was kind of on my phone all day. I was just checking, people were saying really nice things. And then I think after about, 2 days of that, I was like, okay, I need to get back to work. Like I need to, get back to the things I was doing
Mm.
to get me in this position in the first place. So I think I've just, through any of this, just learning, like, take things for what they are, know how big things can go so quickly, and also how quick things can fizzle out so quickly, but
Mm.
like just get back to the work and doing that. So I think it's so much education in that regard.
But that's really great, because I think I was just wanting to check. You've obviously got good people around you, which I think is the
Yes,
key thing. You need good people
completely.
around you. So you've got family, obviously it sounds like
Yeah,
Canada are brilliant, and
they've been
friends, and
wonderful.
then managers. So
Yeah.
this makes me happy, because I want to make sure you're
Yeah,
all right, basically.
I
I'm
got
in
good
mum
people
mode.
with me.
Like, are people
Thank
looking
you.
after Nick? That's what I'm worrying about.
There's a lot of
Um,
people been in mom mode around me, and I've really appreciated it, because I'm like, my mom was back in Tennessee, but I got some like New York people feeling that
yeah,
energy, which has been great.
good, good. We're being looked
Yeah,
after. Um, my next question, actually, I'm making it slightly different because of what
yeah,
you led on. Obviously, anyone who does look at your Instagram account, which I'm sure people do, can tell that you're a connoisseur of obviously the classic movies and are sort of inspired by
yeah,
some of the real classic great actors. But
mhm,
it was really interesting what you said about also looking at people who you're looking at how they've managed their careers
yeah,
as sort of business, because it is a business, isn't it? You've got a
it
brand
completely.
essentially that you're managing. Who
Yeah,
are the ones there that you look to and you just like, oh, that's really interesting what they've done? Are there any that you
yeah.
find yourself going back to?
There's so many, and I think some of them are for certain aspects or another, because it all just depends on how that actor got there. I mean, it's
Mm.
some people I look, I remember when this whole thing was blowing up, I didn't really post a lot, because I was looking at all these actors that didn't post a lot, or didn't had sort of a mystique on their Instagram, and just didn't feel that compulsion. But I was also like, they're at the point in their career where they kind of can take the back seat and still keep 8
Mm.
million followers or whatever, and I'm not really there yet. And also, some actors had a resurgence later in their career. They started earlier. They had like a TV show, and then that broke out. Um, it's there was a quote that I take to heart a lot about all this. And I think it was Denzel Washington. He was talking to Michael B. Jordan about being an actor in a social media scene, and he was saying to be careful posting too much of yourself online, because it's like, why would they pay for you on the weekend when they get you for free all week? And that
Mm.
is sort of like an interesting thing of you look at these great movie stars of old, Paul Newman, whatever, and it's the only content you really got of them was the films that would come out, and then the occasional interview they do, or the occasional photo of them that would show up in the newspaper. And now there's so much content around people, and I think it's protecting your brand, and it's if there's a desire for yourself, you gotta maintain that, and you gotta be smart about that, and not overwash people, but also not ignore people, and be ungrateful for that. Um,
Mm.
so I think I mentioned it in the a couple interviews I've done, but I think of you know there's some one of the things I think that's been so important to me, and such a great teacher for me, is I've grown up in such a time of so many great younger actors to look to.
Mm.
There's been such a phenomenal group of actors that were making the work that I loved, that my friends loved, that that were the most important films and TV shows coming out right
Mm.
now. But they were younger, and they maybe they had some star quality or whatever, but it was their work ethic and their choices that really got them there.
Mm.
Everybody from Euphoria, and Chalamet, and Austin Butler, and Harris Dickinson, Paul Mescal, all these people, Kelvin Harris Jr. Like it's I've had I think really when I was starting out as an actor, that really set a bar for myself of like, you cannot lean on anything. It's you got to be good, but you also have to be smart, and you also have to focus on what the audience want about whatever that brand it is you're selling. It's like you
Mm.
kind of have to play that master puppeteer of all that. And I think I'm so fortunate that I've grown up in a time, especially with access to content on these people. Of I can go watch interviews with them, I can go check their Instagram, I can go see the films they do, and not in like a weird fan stalkery way, but just I want to learn from them because I
Mm.
admire them so much. So that list is so long, but yeah, I think having that many people to look to has been such a learning experience for me. Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit more about you, and then
Let's
just
do
other stuff. So we're doing good. We're all right. We're on
it.
time.
We're doing
Um,
great.
my question for you then is future projects. So what have you
Yeah.
got coming up? Are there
Mhm.
certain things that you're looking for, you'd like to do? This is a hint to the
Oh,
internet.
yeah.
Nick would
I
like
got
this job,
some
please. Yeah. What what
um,
what can you tell us? I know it's not always easy because you're sometimes under NDAs. So
yeah. I, I have another Candyjar coming out, which I'm excited about. I had a lot of fun with that, and it was great seeing everybody again and meeting new people. Um, this one's really fun. I'm excited for people to see that. I have a feature film that I shot 2 years ago coming out ideally at the end of the year. It's getting kinda shopped around right now, but it's the most proud of anything I've done that I have, and I put a lot of myself in that, and that whole crew and that whole cast did, and I'm really excited that there's an audience that'll watch that now. That makes me
Mhm.
feel so good. And not just for me, but just for everybody who worked on that. I love everybody who was on that project. I'm up for a couple auditions right now that I really, really, really want, but I can't talk about. But I think that would be, fingers crossed. Hopefully,
Internet,
there's a.
do this for Nick.
I know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's something. But it's so interesting with the Twitter thing of certain fan casts and stuff that came out. I know there's so many films that are coming out right now that I would love to get in the audition room, or this. I'm a big reader, so there's a lot of books that I would love to get adapted, and come out. I mean, I know Patrick Bateman's happening. I'd love a stab at that. Um, Little Life, I feel like that'll get adapted at some point. I'd love to go in for Willem in that. Jeff Buckley biopic's been kind of the dream role for a while, so really, really hoping there's an audition to read for that. But yeah, honestly, I mean, again, I've said this before, but it's like, that dream role I feel like maybe hasn't been written yet. Maybe that is something that the script comes my way and I'm like, this is the one I want to do. Like, this is the thing I've been sort of revving up for. So, and there's so many great filmmakers working right now that I'd love to work with. So yeah, but the fan casts have been fun. And I'm like, hopefully somebody's listening to some of these and maybe I'll get a call. I don't know.
People do look. I think they do
Yeah,
look.
for
So
sure.
yeah, let's. And then just finally, always feel it's worth asking someone like yourself who loves film. This year, what are one or two favourite things that you've seen? And also, because we're in that transition, aren't we? We're moving into Oscar season, so
Yeah.
when we sort of switch from the more blockbustery ones to the more,
Yeah.
this is the big one. I'm very excited because I saw the trailer for Hamnet the other day with
Oh, I'm
Paul
so excited for that.
Mescal and Jessie. I can't remember her surname, which is terrible because
Jessie Buckley,
who is
she's
one of
so
the
good.
best people in, like, she's phenomenal.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
she's
very
incredible.
excited because apparently
Yeah.
it's Oscar buzz, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that's the whole thing.
I'm so excited.
But that's one that I'm really excited about, like going to see. So I guess it's the same for you, kind of one or two great things you've seen this year, and also stuff that's coming up. You're like, I want to watch that. I know that will be good. I have high hopes. Yeah.
One that I actually watched the other day that is not getting the appreciation I think it should is a Roofman that came out. Derek Cianfrance's new film with
Channing and Kristen.
Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst. I went to see that film because I love Blue Valentine, so I love that director, and I really love that cast. I think Channing Tatum's such a phenomenal actor. In that film, it's been so long since I've cared that much about a protagonist in a film, and I was so engaged, and I was with a bunch of people, and we all kind of had the realization of, like, I don't know how this thing is going to end, and that dawning on you of, like, I really don't know if this thing's going to be positive, but it was phenomenal. I really adored that. And then another one this year that I've loved, I mean, one battle after another. I mean, I think that is the talk of the town right now, but you have so many current masters of this art form and also upcoming masters of this art form working on that thing. And it was, as an actor, as a film lover, as a person living right now, I think it just struck me on so many levels. I think coming out, Sentimental Value is definitely the one that I'm looking forward to the most, just because Worst Person in the World is one of my favorite films ever made, and that cast and that filmmaker. Hamnet's also really big up there because I love both of those actors so much, and I'm a Shakespeare nerd and all sorts of stuff. Chloe Zhao, like it's also Marty Supreme. I think those are the three that I'm the most anticipatory for. So it's there's a lot of cool stuff coming out. My AMC A list is just going to be full week after week after week. I'm just going to be living at the AMC around the corner. So it'll be a lot of fun.
And actually, that's a perfect final question because I want to ask you that now. Okay.
Yeah.
Shakespeare. You said you're a Shakespeare nerd. What are your characters in Shakespeare that you
actually have a Hamlet
like?
tattoo that shows up in my films? I got a falling sparrow right there because of final speech, or one of the final speeches in Hamlet, the Great Providence and the Fall of a Sparrow. I love that moment. I mean, I love him. I love Hal. I love Prince Hal. And all three of them. I love him and Hotspur, but I think Othello is my favorite. I got to see that this year with Gyllenhaal and Denzel, and that was unbelievable.
Wow.
But yeah, I think those. But I think something like Hamlet. I think I probably think about something of that play once a day, and I think it's the sort of piece that I feel like every couple months I'll dip into some aspect of that play just to work on and kind of get my reps in. So I would love to take a stab at that at some point in my career. But I think everybody says that. But it's a.
Well, again, we're putting it on the internet. Can we make it happen, please?
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to. Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I think I'd have a lot
You're
of
in
fun
New
with that.
York. You're not short of stages.
I know. Yeah, hopefully somebody will put something up for sure.
I just want to say thank you so much because you've been so generous with your time. And I just really admire the way you handle everything, as well as the fact, obviously, you are brilliant on screen as well. So just, thank you for everything you've done, and all best for the future.
Likewise. I had such a great time talking to you. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for this.